What is up, guys? We are back to do some more work on the Dakota. I've got a bunch of things done to it off camera. Intercooler piping is all on, so I got both the hot and the cold side done. Horn is mounted. I swapped some bolts out and used this bolt through that horn to mount it. Radiator hoses are all done, so I swapped a bunch of bends out and made upper and lower hoses that worked. Exhaust, so I removed the entire exhaust. It's sitting back there on the floor. Just cut it. The down pipe right here. I'm not going to be putting any of that stuff back on. You'll see what I plan to do with that later. Inside of the truck, as you'll see, I have seats sitting over there. Those are Chrysler Sebring seats that were originally in my Eclipse. And as most of you know, I had Eclipse seats in this truck, which are sitting right here. I'm doing away with these and putting those Sebring seats into the truck. And I'm also getting rid of my carpet because I think I showed you guys it's laying underneath the truck right now. It's already out. You can see all of the rust that is on my floor. And it's all from the inside. There's no rust on the other side of this floor. It's all from the inside, from moisture getting into the carpet and being trapped. My plan is going to be to clean all the rust off of the floor. So I got one of these little disc thingies right here to put in the angle grinder and clean all the rust up. I got truck bed coating to put on my floor, which is these two cans right here, and then I got rust reformer to spray on the floor after I clean it. This sheet of metal, I cut the hole wrong in the floor a little bit. Alright, so if you guys will look right here, you'll notice I didn't cut the hole perfectly aligned with the shifter. So what I'm going to do is cut this all the way out so there's a good perimeter going around, and then I'm going to take this aluminum here, which is plenty wide enough to cover the entire trans tunnel. Even though the light's down, you can still kind of see how much wider this is than that. So I'm going to use the aluminum to kind of finish and tidy the hole up. I'm going to basically cut the aluminum to where it has maybe a ½ inch between it and the shifter. So with the self-tappers, and there was some like RTV gasket maker I bought as well, which I'm going to put between the aluminum and the floor so it's airtight. My goal here for this video is just to get the interior pretty much finished. So getting all the rust off the floor, getting it protected and coated, transmission tunnel situated, and then getting the Sebring seats back in here. We'll see how much I can get done. I know I talked a lot here at the beginning, but I just wanted to explain what's going on. Alright, so here's a status update, guys. I got all of the, well, most of the rust ground off of either floor. There was a lot of pitting and stuff getting into there. I'm definitely gonna have to go back in here at some point in the future and clean all of this up. I think at some point I'm gonna have to basically just go in here and cut that floor out, or at least the sections of it. Rust converter, then bed liner on the floor. I'm probably not going to even need more than half a can of one of those. There's an update for you. Floor is clean. Time to put some paint on it, and then we'll just continue once the paint is dry enough. We'll put the bed liner on and stuff. Couldn't really film anything because I didn't want to get a bunch of dust all over inside of the lens on this camera because it would have never recovered from that. Alright guys, I've made a lot of progress. So the first thing is I ended up doing an AC delete up here and got the new hose for the bypass here. So this is a proper hose for the bypass. The original bracket for both the alternator and the AC compressor is that giant thing right here, and then the one that's on the truck right now has this section of it right here. It doesn't have this, it doesn't have any of the AC compressor stuff. And then it uses this metal bracket here to bolt the top of the alternator down, which made it a lot easier to get a belt to fit. This whole area is totally exposed now. I've got the rust converter on. I sprayed it on a few hours ago. The entire front section is all rust converter all the way up into there and everything. This is what's going to be sitting around the shifter, and it sits a lot pretty nice and tight against the you know, the transmission itself, and the shifter sticking through, so there's not a bunch of empty space around it. This thing, if you'll notice, the shape of the bottom of it is really weird. So the AX15 must have like a really oddly positioned shifter, or it sits super low. Maybe the shifter might sit really low on the AX15, and it needs this weird shape to it in order for it to properly go around the shifter. And this boot doesn't fit. So I'm going to have to figure something out. I'm going to have to either probably get a boot, or at least an insulating boot from a newer Dakota. I'll be able to figure something out. I could probably make something if I have to. I'm going to spray the bed liner on once I've got that plate done, and then I'm probably going to just clean up here and save the rest of the stuff I want to do for tonight after that is dried over, you know, the course of the day. I'm going to finish up the inside as far as paint and that plate and stuff goes, and then I'll get it sprayed with the bed liner, and then we'll come back tonight and I will keep working on it. It's been about, I don't know, probably 16 hours. Everything is most of the way dry. I can see some little wet spots like where the runs were that are still not completely cured out. I think the plate that I made looks pretty good like that, actually. I'm gonna go ahead and get those seats in, and I think the next thing I'm gonna do is get this overflow bottle in. Seats, I'm gonna start working on that overflow container, and then time permitting, I'm gonna either go to the junkyard first or I'm gonna do the throttle cable first. We'll just see. There's the new seats. The Sebring seats fit in there perfectly. And then I changed the shifter for the actual transmission here. This one is longer and the shift knob actually would come off, like spin off of it. The other one I can't get to spin off of it. I don't know if it's stuck or if they're glued on or what it is. But this one was threaded like the Eclipse was, and I had a couple of factory shift knobs for like a DSM. Put that shift knob on this shift lever, and the throw is like stupidly long, as you can see, but it is a pickup truck, so what do you expect? Floor mats are in, and just vacuumed the interior out a little bit. It's still very dusty from grinding all the rust off. I went to the junkyard and got a few things right there. So this is actually really cool. I'm going to show you guys what this is real quick. This is a handle for the tailgate, but it goes right up here where this like little block, like this plate comes out right here, and it's for that. So there was a truck at the junkyard, which Aaron from 802 Garage made a video on Instagram about it when he was over here with me the first time through. It's like a mini trucked out Dodge Dakota, and it had like a roll pan and WRX seats. It was really hack the way they did it, but it was kind of cool still. It's what my lowering kit came from that's going to be going on this. It had a shaved tailgate, so the back end was totally shaved. There was no taillight, there was no handle, and the handle was on the inside of the tailgate. And this was the mechanism that they made for it. But if I were to clean this thing up and ever decide to do like a lowered truck or decide to shave like the tailgate on this one or something, I got the handle for it, and somebody's already done all the hard work to see where it exactly needs to go and everything. And then I got returnless fuel rails. So 96 and up Dodge Dakotas with the V6 and the V8 have returnless fuel systems. I grabbed these because I'm going to show you guys how to make a return system using these rails and getting rid of these rails here. And then I also got all of this stuff. There's a radiator hose. I'm probably going to be using that up here because I think this hose is ugly. I got a center console from a Ford Ranger, an automatic Ford Ranger, which that's what these little cup holder things came from, and then a shift boot from a Mazda, like with the B2300 or whatever. Same thing as a Ford Ranger. Is I'm going to use this thing here to make like a shift boot. So I'm going to cut this part of it out, and this is going to have the shifter coming through it. This area here, I'm going to put a plate over it and RTV it so it's sealed and airtight, and then I'm going to bolt the shift boot. I'm going to have to cut some of these little ribs off and bolt it to that plate, and that should take care of my hole in the floor issue, and then I'll have an extra pair of cup holders right in the floor, which is pretty sick. I also got OEM bolts from a newer Dakota to use for my fuel rails, so you'll notice I just have regular hex head bolts on all 4 locations holding the fuel rails down. These older Dakotas use these stupid Torx bolts on one side, and then this small 1/2-inch bolt here and a stud bolt on the other side. So I got 4 OEM bolts to replace these, which will make it a lot easier to work on this thing. And I'm going to mount this in and get it installed, and then the throttle cable is next. I'm going to get to work, and I will show you guys what it looks like with everything done. Alright guys, I got the overflow container done, and then I also got the throttle cable hooked up and got all the linkage modified. So this is how I mounted the overflow container. So there's a steel plate that runs all the way along back here, and there's 4 holes drilled into it, and I drilled the holes kind of wrong, but I guess it was kind of a good thing because I put riv nuts on this side because there's a giant hole in the fender over here for something else to go through it, and the riv nuts kind of sink into that hole and they don't hit anything. On this side, the riv nuts would have hit something, so I got 2 bolts over here and then a zip tie wrapping through the holes I drilled, which are also in slightly the wrong spot. Had to bust out the good old clearancing tool here to make the cap fit, but I think it looks perfect right there. I stole this hose from the Grand Am because I got a new overflow container slash, I don't know, reservoir bottle for that, which came with its own new hose. So I grabbed the one off the old one and just stuck that on here. I also swapped out this hose right here. So before we had that really weird looking one, which is sitting in the garbage right there. It's that one. I just thought it was ugly, to be honest, and it sat a little bit higher than it really needed to. So, and then the throttle cable. So got a plate here which kind of boxes off this part of the cable linkage bracket, and then I cut like a section of it off here, drilled a hole, tapped threads into it. This is a barrel adjuster from like a bicycle, and then got a cable end for a BMX bike, And then the original cable, actually, this cable has like a little stopper on it, which keeps you from pulling the cable too far forward and the pedal going too high. So I actually just cut it shorter. Cut the housing way shorter. I cut probably 1.5 feet off of the original throttle cable. I just sand a little bit of it off to make it fit nice into this barrel adjuster. And then I got a nut on both sides of the barrel adjusters just so that it doesn't like rip the threads out of this bracket because it's real thin metal and I didn't trust them. And I got plenty of pedal travel. It feels really good. It's got a nice positive feel. It's not super heavy, not super light. It's just right in the middle where it's supposed to be. So I think that's where I'm going to end this video, guys. That's a little look into what is coming up and how close we actually are. I'm really excited to hear this thing start up again. Next video will be wiring, probably. And then fuel system will be after that. And then after the fuel system video might be the first start after putting it all back together. I'm not really sure. Exhaust and maybe finishing some interior stuff. The interior stuff I'll probably do just here and there. I don't know if I'm going to film too much of it. In the wiring, I've already shown you guys some of it. I don't know how much of that I'm going to film either. I might just do a little bits of it here and there and just show you guys the result basically of it all, because you've all seen this setup that I've got going on with everything being different. With all that, that's going to be the end of the video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all later.